Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Ermenkov. I'm a ruling reality coach. Today is 3rd of March, 2024, and I'm continuing my series Ruling Reality as Alex. And today I would like to discuss a very interesting topic about me. It is about the allowed reality. When I grasped this knowledge that basically everything that is happening in our objective reality is to be allowed, then it makes a lot of sense for me. On this date, 3rd of March, 1991, I decided to believe in God and received Jesus Christ as a Lord and Savior, as in the evangelical community says it is. And the big question I started to ask myself is, why do I need to pray, or why do I need to ask? And it was a very interesting moment for me because it happened to be more than a year and a half. I was constantly asking myself questions because I didn't have any religious background before. I didn't know how to communicate with something that I don't know and how to be working with the beyond. So it was 33 years ago when I started basically my journey to the beyond, and I realized that there is something more than what we are experiencing with our five senses. And long story short, from today's perspective, when I'm 50 plus years, I understand much more now why we as human beings are to ask, because the moment when we ask, we are acknowledging that something in the common holographic objective reality is to be allowed. And I'm going to give you a lot of examples in my own personal reality, how I'm working into this direction when I want something strongly. I have a burning desire that is happening inside of me, but also I'm to ask what I want, and then I need to let it go and to know that it is on the balance. It is or going to be allowed, or is not going to be allowed, or is going to be allowed later in my personal objective reality. And for example, there were a lot of times in my experience here in this realm of existence when I was strongly desiring things, and even if I asked, it doesn't mean that it comes immediately or that the gods are answering simultaneously, or that the universe is doing it strongly and powerfully for us, because this is not our standing point as the human beings. As a human beings, we are quite below the higher areas and realms of existence where there are more powerful and more broad governing forces that are allowing or not allowing sometimes of collapsings to happen. And that's why for me it's very interesting to see and to observe different strategical objectives that are happening in the human experience and in the human development, and the way everything around us in the objective reality is happening. Because when we come from the perspective that everything is happening and we are able to experience it only if it's allowed, then of course we can go into the different ditches of reality and the different ways for us to self-limit ourselves and to say, well, Alex, if everything's to be allowed, I'm so proud, I'm so mighty, I'm so powerful that I'm not going to ask anything from anybody. I will try, I will push, I will break through and do whatever I want without asking. The problem is that the reality is not working like this, because if we don't acknowledge that all of us, the different types of individualized consciousnesses, we are together and governed by a higher conscious power, and everything like a pyramidal structure in the end is coming up to the governance and the allowance of everything in the below to be experienced. And it is a very interesting thing for me personally, when I realized that basically the focus of everything and everything that is in existence is not towards the spiritual, it's not towards the invisible, but the opposite. Everything is putting its desires, everything is putting its energy towards the material experience that we are experiencing right now with all of you. So this is very important to know, because there was a period in my life, maybe for more than 15 or 20 years, when I was very passive because I was working for the and living for the afterlife. I was not interested in anything that is happening in the physical matter reality. It was not something that created a passion for me, because I knew it is a temporary thing. This is not why we are here. We are here just to be prepared for what is next. But basically, if we stand back and go into a position where we are not willingly participating and interacting with the reality, and are not giving fruit, are not collapsing the wave, and are not asking in order to receive, then if we go into this passive state, we are actually not working, and we are not going to find our purpose and meaning, because our purpose and meaning is not to be in a standby mode here in this experience right now. Our purpose in meaning is that the more we are interacting with this exact reality right in every moment, the more we are in a necessity to ask, the more we are in a necessity to express this part of us that is going to create a connection with the source, and the source is going to allow us things to start happening through us. And let me now give you some examples with my own personal reality when I was wanting something very strongly, but then I learned myself, because of the allowance principle, to let go. I'm expressing my desires, and then I let go and wait and see, and am willingly open for my desire and my thing not to be allowed. And then it's very important from the standpoint of the asking. If we ask from the perspective that we will never receive, and that we are not worthy enough, or whatever type of positionings we are coming towards the collapsing objective holographic reality, then if we go from this type of positions, we are not going to be very bold, and we are not going to be very willing to interact. And usually what I do is I'm always approaching in the asking from the position that, well, I'm going to receive actually everything that I ask. And then it's very important to start preparing myself and to know how to ask, what to ask, and if what I'm asking can actually subconsciously put into myself and it is not connected with my authenticity, or is it something that is going to long-term imprison me into some types of limitations, or is it something that is long-term going to create even more freedom for myself? And all these are very important questions, and I will give you just some examples of how I have done it. Maybe the first strong example was when I liked and pointed myself and started to understand that I love the wife that I'm with now for more than 30 years. I knew, I experienced it myself, that I'm attached to her, that I love her, but then all the time I was allowing a space for her, and I was allowing and giving opportunity for the things and the desires of my personal expressions to not happen. because you see, when we are in love, it is not only one person that needs to be into the willingness, it is not only the other part to be in the willingness, it is not one person to manipulate the other, and the other, if it's a little bit passive, just to accept because it's manipulated. It is very important, in order to create strong connection, to be 100% sure that this is allowed, that there is a destiny mixation within all of this, and that this is something that is inevitable to happen, and this is something that is really strongly going to explode and to create much more freedom for the people that are uniting themselves into some type of long-term agreements. And then it was the first time when I knew that I like something, that I love something, but I could imagine in myself all the other possibility, whether the other person is not willing, is not going to go into my own personal way of existence, and we are not going to co-share this experience together. And the more I was letting go of the desire I was in a wish, the more reality was giving me the opportunity to have it. And basically, I'm when we are manifesting and when we are experiencing the collapsing of the reality, where it is a mixture also with our desires, but when we know that it is something that is to be allowed, then we are 100% all the time in gratefulness, because we know that it is not ourselves, it is not another person, but this is something that is happening and is allowed into the reality. And whenever I go into into a lot of my projects, I'm firstly expressing strongly my desires. I'm not afraid to ask, but after I ask, I start working with myself. I start envisioning the wish fulfilled, but also in this very moment, from the conception of the burning desire and expressing it into the reality, I'm starting to let it go, in order to create the space for whatever I would like to have and to be manifested, to be allowed, not to be my will. But the beautiful thing is that when it's allowed, you know that now this is part of all the human beings' objective reality, and this is not something that is specifically made or expressed for me at the expense of all other things that are in existence. And in this way, we are able to strongly be into coherence between our authenticity, our expressions and desires, our creators, but also with everything that is surrounding us. And that's why it is very important for all of us to understand all the specifics of the reality, and to be able to really consciously express ourselves, to ask. And of course, some of us, and I have asked myself a lot of time, but how is it possible to ask if you don't know who is the one that is going to answer? And do we need to know? Because actually everything is made in such a way that it is not a necessity for you to have 100% the knowledge for something in order these things to happen for you. Of course, there are a lot of different approaches, but I'm just sharing which approach is working for me. And when I'm the most glad is that when everything is allowed, or whatever is allowed, I know that it is not my will, and it is only my initiation into something to be expressed. Because anyhow, we are intelligent beings, we are unique beings, and we have this power to collapse. We have this responsibility to express our essence into this reality, And also, the more we work with it, we understand how much the reality is also expecting from us to express our inner authentic being into the interactional fields of our common holographic reality. And of course, I can give you maybe one more example with one house that from the moment we bought one plot, there was a specific house in this plot, and I needed to make some decisions then, and we decided the house not to buy, only to buy the plot. And then later on, maybe it took approximately 20 years plus till it was allowed for me to also have this house. So during these 20 years, my desire and my expression was of willingness towards this thing to happen. And the day it happened, it was really like heaven appearing before me, because I knew that all the forces of the universe, everything that was into this existence, was collapsed into this very moment, the past, the present, and the future. And something for which I was waiting more than 20 years was just revealing before my eyes in this specific day. And I was in such a strong and powerful gratitude, because I see something happening and something to be allowed for. And with my own personal involvement, but I knew it was allowed. It was an answer to something I was asking for more than 20 plus years. And I will give you also the opposite examples. When last year, somewhere March or April, I liked very much another plot, and I wanted to buy it. And we started all the procedures. We entered with all the confidence, and we were strongly, willingly involved into this project. And till the new year, they were constantly promising. It came January, February, and in the end of February, they actually rejected this deal. And this deal, till this very moment, is not allowed for us. For example, if it comes a moment in time, maybe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, if this is opening again as a possibility, I will be gladly involved into it. But it doesn't matter if something is allowed or not allowed. The beautiful thing is to know that we are in a communication, and that everything that is happening in our personal holographic reality, it's not only one-sidedness. It's not only ourselves that are asking like a chaotic being, but it is we understanding the creation principle. It is we understanding the structure principle of the reality. It is we honoring all the existence and all the hierarchical functions that are already there even before us. And of course, I spoke a lot about the egregores. I spoke a lot about the outsourcing. Of course, it is good to have a long-term perspective and to know when we see in the moment the reality, to know what is also the future towards which the reality is transforming itself, because of course everything is in transformational mode, and a lot of the beings now think that everything is going back towards more spirituality and less material experience. But basically, this is how my reverse psychology is usually working within me. I'm constantly involved into the material. For me, the material is 100% necessary for the strong expression of the spiritual, because the material is giving the concreteness of the spiritual, and the material is collapsing in a very specific way things that are in a probability and a possibility to be everything else. And this is a very important information for me. I know that it could look like it's a lot of metaphysical things, but be sure, for my own personal reality, material, metaphysical, spiritual, are all of them interconnected, because my identity is that we are multidimensional beings. We cannot exist only as a spiritual being, because we are a multidimensional creation that is destined to stay and to be present into the material. And of course, a lot of us can say, but Alex, it is very easy if this was to be true, but the problem is that we have the death cycle, and all of us are, like, to say, materially disappearing and degrading and so on and so on, and we don't understand very well what is the spiritual part of us, so we cannot even comprehend how is it possible the material to be also eternal and to be so important, especially for the human beings, which are to long term always express themselves through bodies. It doesn't matter if today our bodies look like this, or in the future, through the different transformational processes that are going to happen, that we are going to have new bodies. The important thing is that the material expression is going to stay here in all type of conscious experiences forever. So the beautiful thing, of course, is that we as multidimensional beings have our role to play now in this experience and also in the future. And that's why it is important to know, to understand, to interact, and to understand more about the source of everything, to know about our gods, to know about our beliefs, and of course, long term, because I'm a Christian, I understand more and more the meaning and the reason why we need a universal fixer. We need a savior. And even my children are often asking me, but Father, what exactly are we saved from? Why should, in a sense, we the human beings have a necessity to be fixed? Why so many questions are arising in all our heads? And of course, for me personally, I have my answers and I have my ways of understanding. And the big battle is not between good and evil. It's not between freedom and bindings and slavery and so on. The big transformational cycle that is already happening is between the old elemental existence of everything that is transformed into a new singularity existence where everything is going to be connected to the material through the existence of this universal savior, and the so-called, from the different type of religious expressions, anointed savior. Of course, there are differences in nuances, because a lot of people think that Christ is going to be a cosmic, etherical, some type of an experience. For me personally, I'm a big literalist, and I'm not afraid to allow everything to be expressed into the material. Of course, when the one expanded into all, and then when all was to be collapsed again into a one, it is a very interesting concept of expansion and again contraction into one specific expression that is able to express the all better than any other created beings. And this is approximately what is happening with our minds when we are constantly hallucinating, in a sense, or are constantly bothering our thoughts with the existence of something that is above us, because it is anyhow implanted into our the archivational type of being, and we are constantly growing out into understanding, into awareness, into different types of higher knowledge of understanding, and approaching this reality from a more and more higher type of perspective. But the important thing for all of us to understand that everything that is happening in this material reality is allowed any given moment. It doesn't matter which side of the equation me and you are standing. It doesn't matter what we are supporting. Do we support this war, or do we support this war? Do we support this type of God or this type of God? Whatever sides we are taking constantly, what is allowed and what is long-term to be reviewed before all the beings is actually what is planned, what is narrated, and what is happening. And the beautiful thing is that all of us can be all involved, and all of us can anyhow work in our little circle of our own personal reality and interact with it on a daily basis with passion, with energy, and with the knowingness that we are supported from the beyond and that we are supported from the source to come into our meaning and purpose. And of course, I can speak about and a lot about the different type of expressions that we are constantly doing in this material reality and why they're not the important part of us. And there are a lot of other topics and everything is so complex, and we are not to simplify all these multidimensional and all these interactional experiences, but what are we not to do with ourselves is to diminish ourselves and to say, well, Alex, we are not creatures that are supposed to understand complexity. We are not creatures that are supposed to understand interdimensionality. We are creatures that want to see. We want just to use the five senses and nothing more. But this is a very strong part of a limitation, and my own personal way of being is the opposite way, to be open towards everything that is above and beyond my five senses. So I'm encouraging all of you today to be rulers of all your own personal reality, to enjoy everything that is allowed, but to know that your desire, your asking, your wish, and your interaction also matter. Of course, you can go in my YouTube channel, you can see all the different reality basic program videos that I have expressed throughout my own personal authenticity, which are able to help you and to help me constantly to grow and to ask questions, because knowledge is so vast, complexity is so big that all of us, we need each other, and we need each other sharing what is happening with us in order to be collaborating in this strong and powerful journey. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your reality. Be bold to interact and experience it. Bye-bye.